Welcome to Let's Talk Ball. I'm Thad Brown along with Carl Jones. Every single week we break down the X's and the O's from every single Bills game. And even though now we're into the Bills playoffs, we're still talking about the regular season. This is about Bills and Dolphins. And of course, the only play that anybody wants me to break down is my run against Dan Fates at the end of the game, chasing Josh Allen down. I got to admit, so if anybody hasn't seen the clip, it's all over Twitter. Just look up like camera people chasing Josh Allen or Rochester, or go to my Twitter feed, Thad Brown 7, or any of ours. Anyway, so I'm chasing after Josh Allen and get the shot at the end of the game. I didn't know anybody was around me. I figured someone probably was. And then Dan comes up off the left. Now look, the first thought that goes through my mind is, Dan's way younger than me, this is okay. The second thought that goes through my mind is, Dan got ahead of me, this is not okay. So I tried to catch him, it wasn't happening. You know, at some point, like, the camera is there, and you know how it works. You know, Carl, you shoot games on the field before, obviously. You don't want the camera to break, so there's a level of speed you do not want to exceed the mental governors on. But it was fun that, you know, people got a kick out of seeing us chase after Josh Allen, and Dan, to his credit, a heck of a hustler on the field. Totally respect that. I obviously come cut from the same cloth, so just a cool thing altogether to see.
Now, one question that I do have is that when I'm out there at the end of the games, I kind of in the back of my head, I'm like, wait, is this a national TV game? Is there a chance that, like, the back of my head is in this? Were you thinking that at all?
No, because most of the time, if I do what I expect to do, I'm probably going to get on TV. Like when I get to the sideline, and it's not like a track stance, but like you're ready to go, and I'm finding my space, so I can just get out there, right? If I end up where I want to go, which is either by the quarterback or the head coach, I figure there's a reasonable chance that I end up on TV anyway. And the funny thing about this is that even though you and I work on TV, we get excited. Find yourself in the background, like, look at that, was me.
That all the time.
That little corner was just me. All right, enough of that. Let's talk about Bills and Dolphins here, and we're going to start on defense with this podcast, mainly because the end of the game happened with the Bills defense on the field, but more of the guys who made big plays kind of out of nowhere were on that side of the ball. You had Balen Spector had a good game, Dane Jackson, and the one that I want you to start with, who had the game-ending play, was Taylor Rapp.
Taylor Rapp, he's not a player that you really associate with coverage. He's more of your thumper, run fit. I mean, that's what the Bills really got him for this offseason from the Los Angeles Rams. But it's two plays at the end of the game, the very last two plays on defense. The first one, it was cover 2. He's the deepest of the deep. Good job getting depth, especially with a guy like Tyreek Hill in front of you. The last thing you want Tyreek Hill to do, especially in a winning situation, is for him to run past you. So the fact that he kept the space in front of him, obviously marriage the pass rush with the coverage, because Von Miller allowed that throw to be a little bit off target and forced Tua to rush it. But nonetheless, Taylor Rapp was there to make that play to force it, I believe, second down. Tyreek Hill, because of the play he made, Tyreek Hill got knocked out of the game because he couldn't breathe or whatever. That's what he said after the game. So good on Taylor Rapp for doing that, because the next play, the game-sealing play, that's Chase Claypool instead of Tyreek Hill. Perfect. I don't think I've ever seen a safety play it like this, which is I'm really intrigued, and I want to keep watching it and see other reps of how the Bills play this. Basically, when you play two-man deep, and what I mean by that is there's two safeties who are deepest of the deep, and they're not letting anything to get past them, and then everyone who's underneath playing man coverage, you are underneath everything and inside, so nothing's allowed to cross your face inside of you, closer basically.
The short defenders.
Correct. And so Taylor Rapp is basically just outside of everything and jumps a corner route and two-man deep, which is remarkable to see.
Because most of the time, the two-man safety's playing close to the hash and won't be able to get to the sideline.
Correct, and he just lined up there and jumped it, and that's just a remarkable play. Maybe that was film study. I know that Claypool kind of ran that from, like, the hash a little bit, so you kind of assume that he's going to run out in some capacity. Nonetheless, phenomenal play by 20, because we haven't really seen him make those type of plays all year long. Yeah,
it really has kind of been in a nondescript year for Taylor Rapp. He's in there. He's not getting killed, but he's definitely not making game-impact plays until this one, and he was, you know, really good at the end. Let's talk about Von Miller for a second. You brought him up. Had the week off, inactive. Played only 19 snaps in this game, one of his lowest numbers of the year. Was as invisible as we've seen him all season long for most of the game. But then at the end, got a hand in between the pads, and they say, you know, when you're going O-line against D-line, first man who has hands on the other guy usually wins. Well, he gets a stiff arm there and knocks the tackle over. Now, doesn't ever get close to sniffing Tua, but did force Tua to step up, and the throw, the second to last throw, like you said, that's one that probably should have been made. You know, Tyreek Hill is open there, but Von Miller makes an impact play, so a positive development there. If we move up from the secondary a little bit and move off of the defensive line, The issue the Bills had early in this game was in the run game. The Dolphins were spreading them out wide and were able to gash the Bills with big-time chunks of run. What was happening there that you saw that the Bills were actually doing intently, but it was costing a little bit in the first half?
Yeah, and when you play against a team like the Dolphins that has so much speed, you never want to let them get to the edge. And the Bills did a good job of containing that, almost to a fault, because of the fact that they were so wide on everything, keeping contained, and that was the main emphasis. Sometimes on some of those plays, the Dolphins just cut it up. I know Devon Achane on the touchdown play, I think Christian Benford and Taron Johnson are both outside. I think Leonard Floyd at the line of scrimmage was outside as well, just forcing everything to cut back. Well, at some point, you run out of defenders that are inside of you, and that's what happened on that play. That happened as well throughout other plays throughout the game, but also that helped out a little bit as well. They got some TFLs, forced Tua to kind of throw the ball away. So going in, you could tell the Bills were very, very keen on do not let this ball get to the edge.
And on that touchdown, you were saying that Jordan Poyer, who missed the tackle, and obviously you want him to make the tackle, but that's not an easy play either.
No, I mean, sure, he get most of the blame. Sure, he's the guy who could have got him down. But, I mean, that dude runs. He's a legit track guy. Probably could have went to the Olympics if he wanted to. Tackling him in the open field, good luck.
Terrell Bernard, I thought, had his best game of the year. And that might surprise some people who see the sack numbers and some of the turnovers that he's forced. And people think Terrell Bernard's a Pro Bowl player. And you have talked a lot that he's not at that level yet. He's had a nice year. But in this game, he was active. He was avoiding blocks, which is something you very rarely see him do. One of the big stops in the second half that kind of prevented Miami from getting going at all was a nice play where he attacked the run, got ahead of it, got around an offensive tackle, got low, didn't quite make the tackle, but was a big part of it. So I was very impressed with his game. I thought Leonard Floyd and Greg Rousseau, especially Rousseau had a very solid game as well. Was active in the one of the few guys that had multiple pressures in this game. And I thought it was interesting that the Dolphins were attempting to do the normal boot game where quarterback will play action, run to the outside, and then he's got to either throw around or get around a defensive end. Those two guys are like 6'7", and Tua is 6'0". For him to have to throw over around those guys was an interesting choice. It's part of your standard package, but against the Bills, it gets a whole lot more difficult. No pass rush really for the Bills otherwise in this game, and a lot of that, Carl, was about what the Dolphins did offensively or how they run their offense.
Yeah, I mean, Tua gets the ball out so fast. I think it's one of the fastest in the league, if I'm not mistaken. So it's kind of hard to get consistent pressure at the quarterback. But like you said, even when the opportunities were presented, they still didn't really get home.
The second half, the thing that really, you talk about what did the Bills do differently in the second half. I don't know if it was a whole, there's one thing I'm going to let you set up in a minute. The one thing to me that I noticed was that Miami didn't try to run the ball. They ran it well in the first half, and then the second half they had 3 runs the whole half, and one of them was on 2nd and 30 when they had gotten backed up. So now give the Bills credit. The 2 runs that the Dolphins did try in the second half, -1 and 2 yards. So they stopped those. But the Dolphins just kind of played into Buffalo's hands because the Bills were stopping the pass decently most of the game. And Miami did not go to what their bread and butter was in the second half. But what was the other thing that you saw that you liked in the second half?
Effort and pursuit. I mean, there's no X's and O's. There's no scheme for just running to the football. Usually, and I know this is so cliche to say, but when a team plays good defense, they just play with good intensity and good effort. I mean, Terrell Bernard was probably the best example of this, but Taron Johnson's flying to the football. I'm seeing Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde flying there. Defensive linemen are running down the line to make tackles. There is no supplement for that. If the guys are just out there playing 100 miles per hour, I mean that's just good defense right there, especially those plays where they did stuff them for -1 and 2 yards right there. That's just effort. Like, get off my guy and I'm trying to go make a play. You will not be denied. So kudos to whatever happened at halftime, whatever Sean McDermott said to them boys, whatever he said clearly got to their attention in the second half.
It was noticeable. The speed and the attack mentality. They got back to kind of doing what they do, which is chase and kill. Speaking of 100 miles per hour, let's talk about Josh Allen. Look, this is 3 weeks in a row where you watch the film and you see him making bad decisions, leaving the pocket early. He does not look like a comfortable quarterback, certainly not play in, play out. And you saw it in the big misses in this game with 2 interceptions and a fumble. And really, for my money, the play at the end of the first half might as well.
I think that's a turnover too.
Exactly. Yeah. He really had 4 turnovers in this game. And of all the things that you might have seen at home or watching the game and thought, that's bad, that's bad, that's bad, the one that you pointed out, and I agree, was not an interception. It was on a play where an interception happened, but Josh Allen had lost that play long before he thought about throwing the interception.
Yeah, it was the interception that he threw to Gabe Davis, the second one, the long, deep ball one. The route is there. It's a rub route where I believe Dalton Kincaid goes directly to the flat. They got the man look. The rub was there, and he just didn't pull the trigger for whatever reason. I don't know what the case may be. And then now he has to leave the pocket, try to go make a play, throws across his body, and is an interception. So that play right there kind of encapsulated it. He was just frantic at times. I'm just like, dude, the play's there. Just execute what's on the play sheet.
The other part of that kind of baffled me a little bit, it looked like he had a lane to run for a first down. I've never not seen him take a run in a spot like that. Now, look, he played better in the second half, and there were good throws in this game too. But, he's had 3 in a row now, like I said, where I have not liked the Josh Allen game as a whole. This might have been the worst of the 3. And, going forward where, you're not going to face a team that's down to its 5th and 6th defensive end like the Dolphins were in this game, where they're missing the number 1 corner. At some point, now I know the AFC is littered with situations like Miami's, but at some point you're going to face somebody that's got most of their team together, i.e. the Ravens probably, and, or maybe even the Browns in a couple weeks. Their defense is still pretty legit. To where you might pay for more of this than you did even in this game, where Allen committed, quotes, 4 turnovers. For all that Allen didn't do well, you did like the Joe Brady game out of this one, though. Yeah.
In terms of the money plays, and what I mean by that, these are the plays that you script all week in practice. When we get this play against this look, let's execute it. There were a couple plays, whatever you want to say, if it was a pass interference or not on the first drive of the game with Dawson Knox. The plays there, Joe Brady is probably so happy, jumped out of his seat when he got the look he wanted. Just wasn't executed there. Very next play was a pick.
Dalton Kincaid's wide open on that play, too. You could look off Knox and just, pitch it left-handed. It would have been a touchdown.
Exactly. And then on the very next drive, misses on the miss to Stephon Diggs. They got the look they wanted. If it's cover 4 and that safety sits for half of a second, chuck it deep to Diggs. It looked much worse because Ramsey jumped the route for whatever reason. But that's another one where Joe Brady got his – I can't throw the ball for you. And then the worst example of this was the James Cook miss. I know the drop is bad, but if you look at the play – the Dolphins were in a cover 4 look, which means if that safety takes the inside post and the outside corner takes the outside post, there is no one on the other side, on that corner of the field to carry that route.
Basically, you're taking, if you look at it from the offense's point of view, you're taking the 2 deep defenders on the left, you're pushing them both to the right. Cook runs out of the backfield to the left, and he's wide open because he is.
And he's wide open, and he drops the ball. Just like he can't throw deep balls for Josh Allen, he can't catch for James Cook. So I thought for the money plays, the plays that are scripted all week in practice, he did a good job of getting the looks that he wanted, and they just didn't execute them.
I was disappointed in the run scheme. As we talked about a little last week, it feels like the bag is running a little dry there. I know they kind of went away from some of the lead runs. It felt like Miami was prepared for those. But, whatever else they went to, they tried some inside zone. They went a little power, Leonard Fournette. Nothing was working. Nothing was effective. And, the Bills need that run game to be a part of the offense, because as we talked about, the passing game, you can't trust it to just dominate. It will be effective, and Josh Allen will be Josh Allen, make a bunch of plays, but the Bills need that secondary option on offense with the run game. Up front, O'Cyrus Torrence is becoming a thing, and not in the good way. And I've liked him all year, and I still think he's got a great future in the league. But the Christian Wilkins forced fumble is the play where Torrence just got whooped. It was not the only play in the game where he did not look good. And, guys are too fast. They're going around him, especially to the inside, but not always to the inside. And, I'm sure this is popping up over and over on film. And, again, you go to the playoffs now where more teams have better defensive tackles. This is something that's going to get exploited.
Yeah, from here on out, Chris Jones, you might see him in 2 weeks. Cameron Hayward is a player for the Steelers. He's a darn good player still at the age of – I don't know how old Cameron Hayward is. I know he was back with the Buckeyes, I feel like in 2008. So, the fact that he's still kicking is good for him. But regardless, they're going to play some much better defenses from here on out, and he's going to need to step up, because you can't have one play where I have a mess up, but it was a strip sack. Your mess ups can lead to those type of mistakes on the field.
They're costing points. Otherwise, the offensive line, look, this is still a good offensive line, top 10 easily. And I thought for the most part they had a pretty solid game. A little more issue with blitz pickup than they've had in past games. To me, it was just a bad outing. I think they'll be fine. But Torrence is becoming, like I said, I don't want to call him a liability, but he is a question mark, I think, right now when it comes to protecting the passer. In terms of the skill guys, Khalil Shakir continues to make plays. And, we've talked about that. He's not someone that's just going to win one-on-one in man. But if you give him time to find his way through a zone, he will, find some space. And there even, there was a play which it looked like to me they're having Stephon Diggs run interference so they get Shakir open on a 3rd down. And that to me, more than anything, tells you where this offense sees Khalil Shakir.
He's a reliable, productive guy. I don't want to categorize him into a wide receiver 2 or 3 or anything like that. When he's out there, he produces. That's just the best way I can describe him. And the fact that every time he gets the ball, something good happens. I mean, he very rarely fumbles. He's done the drops are kind of a thing in the past. You hope at this point. I mean, even the deep run on the bubble route, I know that looks mundane, and I know that like, oh my gosh, like anyone could do that. But the fact that like a receiver or a ball carrier has the awareness to just not run right in front of Gabe Davis and actually bounce it a little bit, that's a heady football player. So he's a reliable guy, and the fact that it took until probably week 15 for us to say that about a second guy, I guess you can say, it's kind of weird to say, but regardless, going into the playoffs, Josh Allen definitely trusts Khalil Shakir.
He's been reliable all year. He has been reliable long before week 15. Again, the thing that you back off on why maybe we don't talk about him as much is because in man coverage, one-on-one, he's just not a guy that's going to dominate physically. That's just not his game.
Definitely a scheme dependent or matchup dependent guy.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not. I think dependent feels like the wrong word because he can do it against anybody. If you let him find space in the zone, he's going to win. And to be honest, people won't want to hear this. If he played for Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes got to sit there and let him work his magic, he'd be nasty with the Chiefs.
I've been thinking that all year, where if Khalil Shakir played for the Chiefs, because he's kind of like,
or even Joe Burrow for that matter. Yeah,
he reminds, and I don't think he's Juju Smith-Schuster, but he does some of the same stuff where he's just always in the right place at the right time, and just have one guy who's dependable and look at that offense. But regardless, he is very good this year.
Beyond that, I do want to shout out Trench Sheffield a little bit. He's has not had a great year. All right, disappointing in many ways, but in this game, he was very good at running the I'm going to pick off a defender and let someone else get open route. He was doing that the whole second half. There are multiple plays where, wow, this other guy got all the praise, but 16's the one that's creating space for him. So I want to give Sheffield credit for that. That doesn't mean he had a great game, but in this one area, I was very impressed.
Yeah, he runs those, we call it for the love of the game routes. You're not getting the ball. It's probably going to hurt. You're going to run 50 yards down the field, clear someone out. These rub routes, from time to time, it might hurt because someone's going to run right into you. But do you love the game? And clearly Sheffield showed in the second half he loved the game because he knew he wasn't getting the ball and he was still helping out.
Real quick, let's talk about the Steelers game coming up. This is, to me, the same game we've seen the last couple weeks. Minus, like last week there was Tua and Tyreek Hill and Devin Achane to where, all right, well, those track stars could blow up a game. But otherwise, these are beat-up teams who probably don't have all the talent they want to have, especially we talk about the Chargers and the Patriots. The Steelers probably fall into that category, somewhere that wider category. So this is a game where the Bills should win. They have the better talent. They have the way better quarterback, as long as they don't do things like they did in this game, which is turn it over multiple times.
Yeah, I think this is a high-variance Bills game. So if they play up to their standards, I think they'll honestly, they can
2 touchdowns?
Yeah, they can honestly just open this game up. But if they have the game where they allow a team to stick around, make self-inflicted mistakes, because I don't think the Steelers have enough firepower on either side without T.J. Watt, a banged-up Minka Fitzpatrick, and an offensive side of the ball. They're much better, but they still aren't anything to write home about to threaten the Bills if the Bills don't do it themselves.
The Steelers' offense, other than quarterback, I think is in better shape than it's been in a long time because Deontay Johnson and George Pickens they're not A receivers, but they're B pluses, right? And then Jalen Warren and Najee Harris is probably a B plus running back duo, right? I mean, these are guys that can do, and they fit together nicely. Warren's more the scat back, pass receiver, where Najee will bang in the middle, but they can both, catch passes out of the backfield. Deontay's more a possession guy. Pickens is the home run hitter. So they fit, even if they're not like, oh, it's Tyreek Hill and Devon Achane. So there are some guys to worry about there.
Yeah, I can't wait to see if what Bills we get this week. Because I know that's a cop-out. Like, oh my gosh, what are the Bills going to do? I don't know. Is Josh Allen going to just forget to throw rub routes? Like, I can't predict that.
If Josh Allen executes the offense and doesn't do dumb things, they should win by 3 touchdowns. Yeah, exactly. All right. As always, you can watch us at YouTube on RochesterFirst.com, and you can listen to this wherever you get your podcasts. We will talk to you again next week after the Bills and the Steelers. Whether the Bills win or lose, we will be breaking it down right here. For Carl Jones, I'm Thad Brown. Thanks for watching and listening to Let's Talk Ball.